What's shaking today, Amber?
Hey, it's a beautiful day. The sky is blue and I'm ready for it. What do you got for me today?
Oh, I got one today that you and I have most certainly talked about outside of the podcast. But yeah, I want to talk today about AI and project management.
Oh, wow. Just a light topic. Something
Just,
kind of fluffy.
something easy, something that I'm sure is going to stay the same for the next, 10 or 15 years,
Oh my gosh.
or the next 10 or 15 minutes anyway.
I was going to say maybe the 10 or 15 minutes, but not years.
Yeah.
Okay. So do you have a specific question around that or
Well,
is it just generally like, what are
yeah.
you curious about?
Well, you love technologies. I love technologies. We both look at and pay attention to the AI space, but we do that differently.
Very much so.
Um, and I'm curious what you see 2026 bringing for project management and the use of AI tools.
Well, I think first of all, we should just establish what is it doing with tools today
Right.
that I know of. And this is, early 2026. I can't speak to project management globally um, outside of PMI, and that's because I am very much aligned with PMI, and that's a personal choice. I've been a global volunteer with PMI for the last 2 years. I've been a volunteer with PMI for the last 10 years of my life. And so, yeah, if you cut me, I bleed a little bit PMI. That does not mean that I think PMI is the only project management entity out there. My eyes are wide open. There's a lot of options out there, but I would say at this stage, first quarter of 2026, PMI, projectmanagementinstitute.org, that's where you'd find them. They are the leading project management association worldwide. And they establish the profession of project management. And how they do that is they have three things that they possess. And that is they have a body of knowledge for the profession, they have a code of ethics and standards of conduct, and they have a metric measurement tool, which is they have certifications. So they have the three things that come together to create the profession of project management. There are other associations that have similar, but they aren't as big as. PMI has been in the AI game specifically for their project management practitioners since basically AI hit the mainstream in 2021, which is really November 2021 is when the technology that's been around and been in development since 1950 hit the mainstream. And a lot of people think it was brand new in 2021. It wasn't, because technology like this it wouldn't have just emerged out of nowhere. It takes a tremendous amount of basically exercise and practice and practitionership to build it to where it is now. But when it went live to the general public and it became accessible in 2021, some organizations, PMI included, saw the future and recognized that they wanted to be a part of it. So PMI put together their own proprietary um, LLM, and it is called PMI Infinity. And it is a closed kind of AI system, meaning that you have to be a subscriber or a member. And what it is it is basically every single bit of the body of knowledge and the development of project management kind of wise practice since inception of PMI, which is 1969 is when PMI was established. And they've taken all of the body of knowledge, all of the tools, the templates, the artifacts that have been developed, and white papers, articles, all of it, and they put it into this LLM that is proprietary. And then they've given all of their members, professional project managers, or anyone who wants to have access to PMI Infinity, they've given them access to it. And of course, it's a learning model. So as it's used, its wisdom and its ability to interact with all of the historical documentation of the profession grows. So PMI has already been at the forefront of using this type of essentially massive data metric research tool that then has the ability to create practical, interactive, solution-driven new tools, templates, and techniques. And they've been at this from very early on. Um, so I would just say that's today, first quarter of 2026. That's all true. Um, but that doesn't answer the question of where's project management and/or a project manager going to go as it relates to the general kind of global use of AI, which is we're not just talking about a database that's intelligent. Artificial intelligence is now and continues to grow at such a rapid pace. The snowball effect, which is that idea that at the top of the mountain, we started with a pebble and the pebble started to roll down the mountain. And of course, as it's rolling down the mountain, it's gathering, and in this case, the snowball, it's gathering snow. And every rotation, there's more snow that's collected. So this very small pebble becomes a very large snowball as it continues to sort of, you know, roll down the hill, let's say. Um, I don't presume to be an expert on AI technology, but I am incredibly curious. And I have remained in the space of researching where it's going, what's happening in that space, and also how is it going to impact not just my daily life, but I think the daily lives of humans on the planet. And I'll tell you, I think for a change manager like I am, like I'm a project manager that specializes in change management. That's sort of my formal kind of training that I've done in the last 13 years and my specialty. I cannot impress upon you and the listeners anymore about how much change is coming. And I don't know what that change is going to look like fully. But what I do feel strongly about is the change is going to be so massive that the very way we see our lives today will no longer be the way we live in the future. And like, I know that instills fear in a lot of people. And to be honest with you, I'm not fearful because there's a natural fear that comes with uncertainty. And I'm human. I do believe that running from it or hoping it won't happen, we're so far past that now. That will not be possible. Now, there are pockets of maybe humans in the world that are going to have the, I would say, advantage of being disconnected enough that they perhaps will be able to escape this massive change. I think the simpler someone is living on the planet right now, maybe completely detached from technology, there are places where those people may not experience what I think is coming. But I also feel they will still feel the impact of everyone else feeling the change. And I think as project managers, as project professionals, I think in the short term, project managers who refuse to adopt AI technology and use it will become obsolete. They will lose their jobs, no question. Um, so if that's where you're at and you're saying, I don't want to do this, I don't want to use that, if you feel that that misaligns with your integrity as a professional, I would just say that that's okay. But you're going to have to suspend the integrity question because the tsunami of change that you will be presented with is going to mean that you can maintain your integrity if that's what you believe it is, but you will be excluded from where things are going. That's what I really believe. And that sounds provocative, but I'm pretty confident saying that today, just based on my own research and where I think things are. If you can release it as an integrity question, and just think about how you want to protect your livelihood and your family and care for those and have a career, then I think it's important for you to consider how can I be more open to adopting this technology? Because those that refuse are the ones that will get left behind. Now, maybe they'll be able to create something in the in the space, in that, space where technology doesn't exist? Maybe. I don't know. These are the uncertainties that I can't even imagine. But refusing to use it, not possible. So, and I'll give you an example. I have the distinct privilege of being a professor, an adjunct professor at some universities. And one in particular has had a very firm no AI policy up until about a year ago. And the hard part about that was as a practitioner, especially as an adjunct professor, like I I'm out in the real world working, and then I come in to teach. So for me to be out in the real world working using this technology, recognizing how valuable it is, and then coming in to teach it, and I have to say, but you're not allowed to use it. Like, it was incredibly difficult for me, to the point where it was duplicitous. And I realized I had to actually go against some of the university kind of even policy and have conversations that I have no doubt at the time the university would have been uncomfortable with me having with students. But it was because these students were earnestly trying to like become professional project managers. They want to get into the industry. And I can't tell them. I mean, I can say for the homework assignment, you're not allowed to use AI. But I can't say in the real world, you're not allowed to use AI, because as a practitioner, I'm like, I use AI all the time. This is how it's done. And, you know, part of that is also training AI to understand how to make those great decisions, how to increase AI's capacity to understand the complexity of project management and experience. We have to kind of be partners with it. Fast forward to today, that university has now relaxed that policy, which is good because it was very difficult for me. And the relaxing of the policy is they're still policing its use, and I understand that. We want students to be able to actually understand the concepts. But at the same time, to like be an ostrich and put our head in the sand and refuse to see it, I think those individuals, they're going to get left behind. And I understand in an artist environment, so music, um, movies, motion, kind of any kind of motion work, even using technology to create film. Like, I get that there's a different conversation perhaps going on when you talk about intellectual property, but I'm like, but as a project professional, these tools are changing the game. And I think in the short term, you've got to get on that train. In the long term, I don't know. I don't know how many of us will be able to still do the work that we know how to do today, because so much of it will be able to be done by technology. And so I think our roles will change, and perhaps for some of us, it will also mean we will become more educators of AI. We will teach it what we know after long careers in project management, and as a result, it will mean we have the opportunity to leave our legacy. I think that has a really cool space that I'm starting to imagine and consider. And part of your legacy as a practitioner is to really, how do I make sure that this technology actually understands the nuance that I have learned in my skill development? And then this idea of I've become really quite a bit more of a master of the craft of project management. Um, anyway, that's a long rant.
No, it was
I
really good.
didn't take a lot of breaths in that, but that was sort of what immediately I was thinking of when you asked the question.
Well, and I know you follow technology very, very closely.
Every day. Yeah, I'm reading, and I encourage everyone to do that, especially if you're afraid. One of the greatest ways to harness fear is to educate it.
Yeah.
And that means a commitment. Like, you just literally got to get up and go like, I'm afraid, but I want to understand.
Right.
And that curiosity can be really helpful.
And I'm a great lover of technology. Again, differently, we both look at it differently, but in my mind, all technology falls under the tool category.
Yeah.
This is a tool. AI is a tool, much like the calculator before it was a tool, much like the abacus before that was a tool. And we've got lots of different tools we can use in our tool belt.
And I totally disagree with you on that.
I know.
Yeah. But also, I think I know stuff you don't know.
So again, perfect for our listeners.
Yeah.
What would you say to somebody who comes at it like, well, it's just a tool?
Yeah. I think absolutely at first glance, it's a tool. In the 50s, when they began to, think about it, dream about it, and engineer it. When in, the 80s and the 90s, they started to play chess with it, and, the brain of AI was growing and its abilities. I think, yes, absolutely. Tool, 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 tool. The challenge is that what we've actually created, particularly now that it's open source, and that's really what happened. In 2021, the technology became open source. And a lot of people, maybe you don't understand what that means. Open source is not it was available for you to use to plan your dinner and, plan your next vacation. Like, I think as consumers of the technology in 2021, we started to play with it. But that was at the consumer level. That was at the sort of engagement level. What actually happened was it became open source, which meant that the technology became accessible to anyone to begin to use it to create their own, hopes and dreams and desires for what it could do for them. And the big companies in this game are working on and always have been working to build something called superintelligence. And this is very different than AI, but AI had to come before. So I would agree with you that AI itself and sort of what we're talking about, learning language models, I would agree that tool, yes, yes, yes. But what we are actually talking about is there will come a time, and maybe it will happen in 2026. I can't predict that. But there will come a time where the tool itself becomes its own entity. And that entity becomes more intelligent and capable of reasoning and capable of decision making better than we can. And it will have not just that capability, but it will also have capability to potentially work with us or also have us work for it. And that is where we change the tool language.
Sure.
And then it becomes more about how do we integrate? And I mean, as species, if you think about this superintelligence growth when we don't have it yet, as far as I understand, although for all I know, it exists. They just haven't, revealed it yet. But I know that the powers that be in this space are working very hard to get it to that point. When we get there, it will be about our species as humans integrating with it as a species, as a created, engineered species, but now that exists without us, completely autonomous of us. That's not a tool that we can control anymore. And that's the part that I think inspires a lot of fear, as it should. And the level of uncertainty as a change manager is so high that I feel I have to tap out because I don't know how to do analysis with that level of change. I do believe that there are a lot of people right now that are working to do this well, but I also believe that there are those who are working to not do this well. And what that will mean, I don't know. So that's why I disagree with you. It's not that I disagree with you as the inception is a tool. It's that what we have created is going to create something that we will not have control over. And that changes the game.
Look, I completely agree with you on superintelligence.
Yeah.
Because once we hit superintelligence, and I'm a huge sci-fi fan.
I was going to say, it's sci-fi land, which you know way more about than I do.
Yeah, superintelligence can be HAL from 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Yes.
Superintelligence can be Skynet from Terminator. And in both of those, superintelligence didn't fare well for the humans around it. Superintelligence can also be Data from Star Trek.
And I'm so glad you're bringing that up because I think this is why when I hear people talk about that they're so afraid they don't want to talk about it, I kind of go, "Ooh, don't do that." Because I think it's that lack of wanting to engage the uncertainty that is actually the bigger threat for us.
Right.
And I also think too, finding agreement. Even what I'm saying, this is what I believe and feel that I can say today as I am recording this podcast. I don't even know how I will interact with what I'm saying a week from now because there's so much that keeps coming. And as someone like myself, like I said, I read about this every day. Who knows? The change is going to be so much that it's really hard for me to just say adamantly anything when new data is coming at us every single day.
Yeah, and I do like that where we land with superintelligence is around control,
Mhm.
because there is a spot. Every tool up until now is a tool we could control,
Mhm.
but even the atom bomb was a little bit out of our control,
Certainly.
and we had to learn how to play in the atomic tool world.
Mhm.
Um, and I feel the same way about superintelligence.
Mhm.
In many ways, it has all the brains
Mhm.
and all the childlike.
Mhm.
And at the same time, like, as parents, we both know we don't get to control.
Well, and that's a good example as parents, like, but Martin, look at how many parents you and I know that have maintained the control part of relationship with their child, and as a result, when they become adults, they have nothing to do with them
Sure.
because they've only ever been able to handle parenthood at the control level.
Yeah.
And as soon as your kids start making decisions outside of your control, if you can't adjust the way you hold them, you lose them.
Yeah.
And, like, that's a tough journey. So I think it's exactly what we're talking about here, and that level of, like, relationship. We're actually talking about a relationship,
Mhm.
and it's interesting, I think, isn't it ironic that as a species, such a highly relatable, required, connected, relational species like humanity, we've created something that actually is going to mean we need to have a really great positive relationship with
Yeah.
it in order for it to control us, yes, have power over us, yes, but also for us to collaborate with it. And so that's where I'm kind of like,
Yeah.
what that will be.
Well, and as you talk about super intelligence, and I just want to split this because we talk about living intelligence quite a bit around here. And so coming back to Data, I remember there's a couple episodes where he wanted to know what humor was. And
Oh,
he could understand humor conceptually,
yeah.
but he couldn't feel the laughter.
Mm,
And I come back to this space in living intelligence
sure.
around creativity,
Right.
around if we're going to project man, the living intelligence may tell us the best way to manage this project.
Mhm.
It can't tell us what to project manage or why.
Mm.
And so if I said project manage my household, it might come up with a really good budget and a really good system. And it might look really great until I turn to my granddaughter and go, "This is your role."
And she's like,
And,
"The
and, the- and
hell it
she's like,
is."
"Tell Skynet what it can go do with itself."
Well, and then but I love that you brought that up because, this is also tapping into the science fiction thing where I'm not a big sci-fi fan. Although I have to say, I have been fascinated by pockets of science fiction over the course of my kind of life. It's just not where I've lived. But I think all of these things that our creativity has imagined, these are not out of touch thoughts and ideas. In fact, they are going to many of them, as you know, have already become our reality, but they're gonna continue to be our reality. And what does that look like? For people like me who've been on the outside of science fiction, I think it's like, "Well, that'll never happen." That's sort of what I don't wanna read that because it's ridiculous. And now I'm like, "Wait a minute, maybe I should have been reading up on this," because it's becoming more and more of what may be my reality in my lifetime. And I think too, like, I'm curious about that. I mean, I'm in my 50s. So what will my lifetime have in it? And then, of course, I have children. So I will leave behind children who will also experience a different thing. If they decide to have children, their children will. And so there's just this idea of like, wow, like, when I was born, and when I was growing up, we didn't have computers. They existed, but we didn't have them on our person. And then I remember getting my first computer. And of course, when I look back to see what that capability was, nothing. To see how far things have progressed in 50 years, my lifetime, um, yeah, it's going to be very interesting. And I would just say too, like, I am afraid. I do hold fear, but how I am handling and balancing that fear is I'm educating myself. And that is what I recommend to a lot of individuals that feel that way. And I think also we don't have to agree with how this is going to go. You and I don't. And I say agree. I don't know that we disagree with one another ultimately. We just see it differently. That makes it better. When we talk about it, your viewpoint and my viewpoint put together gives us a broader view. And so I think we do need to add other viewpoints to the conversation so that we can begin to equip ourselves for what's coming and what's already here.
Yeah, and as you said, no one can predict the future, least
Yeah.
of all coaches and project managers. Um, and again, I don't want to overuse the tool metaphor, because if it super intelligence fully expressed is a new life form.
Yes.
And if it
Agreed.
is its own life form, then we have to learn how to live. Again, back to your space on relationship,
Right.
then we have to relate with it.
Correct.
And in all the stories where it's bad,
Yeah.
it was bad for the humans. If it is a life form and it's a superior life form, then, well, why should, again, we got in the way of a lot of species.
Yes, we did. Yes.
Should not evolution have a space where other species get to play, where we're not the apex
I mean, this is a
intelligence anymore?
very different conversation you're headed into.
Well, I just bring this up at the end of
Yeah.
our conversation to say, um, we don't know.
We don't know.
And because we don't know,
Mhm.
let's interact with it in the project space and in all the spaces in our world
Mhm.
in such a way that right now we still can find value.
Yeah. And I think let's be open to the change, and opening yourself up to change means respecting that the things that you hold true today will potentially not be true tomorrow. And as humans, you have to manage your emotions around that. And that's really tough to do, but it's easier done when you're naming them
Yeah.
and when you're having transparent, conscious conversations about them. This is also, and I'm going to give you a plug, and I am a coach as well, but I think, I'm a project manager first, a change manager, and then also an executive coach. You embody this coaching world. We are going to need your skills. We are going to need the skills of professional coaches who really are dedicated to understanding how not to tell people what to do, because coaching isn't about that. Coaching is about asking really great questions and having someone in your corner help you work through your emotions, increase your own self awareness, and empower you to feel less afraid. And I think we're going to really need that. Um, Definitely. I'm going to need it. I'm going to continue to need coaching through this journey. And I want to be there to coach people through the journey as well. We'll do it together.
Yeah. And I want to say thank you, because we're at the end of our time today. And it felt like it was effortless because again, this is an important topic.
Yes.
And I just want to say thank you for the curiosity,
Right.
because that's the space that there's one thing that's never disappearing, super intelligence or not, and that's curiosity.
Absolutely. And this is not the last podcast we will do about this.
Oh
And
no.
future ones will have more data.
And the future ones will be like, remember when we thought that was what it was going to
Right.
be?
That's right. That's right. Thanks, Martin.
Thank you.